Welcome to Hammer TV, everybody. Today we're going to talk about pedestrian accidents and what they're like and truly how they're caused. Estimates indicate that there are more than 4,000 pedestrian deaths a year and more than 70,000 injuries. Even when an accident isn't fatal and you don't pass away or your loved one doesn't pass away, it can be debilitating and change your course of life and be extremely costly. So, Jim, talk to us a little bit about the percentages of accidents when there's an out-fault driver and it involves a pedestrian.
Well, statistically, about half of these pedestrian knockdown cases are the fault of the vehicle driver. So what I see is that there's all different types of causes of accidents. I see carelessness, failure to look out, not paying attention, texting, not looking where you're going, driving up on the sidewalk. What do you see as some of the causes of these accidents?
Well, you mentioned a lot of the causes of the accidents, just essentially where you're trying to back up without looking. Someone's walking across the street in the crosswalk, and like you talked about, they're just simply texting, or they're maybe on their phone, not using, a hands-free device. But a lot of the time, it's just carelessness, like you mentioned.
And why are what are these injuries so serious between a vehicle and a pedestrian?
Well, you think about the weight comparison. A person who maybe weighs a few hundred pounds and a vehicle that weighs thousands and thousands of pounds. Just who's going to win that battle? Most often the vehicle is going to win that battle as far as causing the most injuries, because someone who's sitting inside the vehicle is protected by the protective cocoon. And ultimately that renders them very, very safe. And then the other person who gets hit is extremely badly injured.
So what are some of the most serious injuries that you've seen?
Wow, I've seen a lot of leg injuries, a lot of knee injuries. You get popped by the vehicle, it shoots you up in the air, and ultimately you have broken bones. You also may have some significant spinal damage. I have on occasion seen some amputations as a result of being drug under the vehicle for long extended periods of time, where the physicians do their best to try to save your limbs, but they just do their best, and unfortunately you can't have your limbs saved. It's just tragic.
I've seen a lot of these cases where people have to have metal pins and plates put in their legs or arms to reconstruct their arms or legs, and the doctors do a beautiful job with that surgery. But after you've had that kind of accident, are you ever the same?
You're never the same. Once they have to put rods, pins, and plates in your leg, you're going to walk with a limp. You're not going to have the full range of motion in your arm. You're going to be severely debilitated for the rest of your life, unfortunately. You can do physical therapy, and sometimes you get close to where you were prior to the accident, but the amount of medical bills you accumulate, and to answer your question, no, you're usually not the same as you were prior to the accident.
And what I've seen a lot of is a pedestrian will get hit and it destroys their career. It destroys their earning capacity. Their lives are ruined. They have to file bankruptcy because their medical bills are so high. It can break up marriages. It's just a terrible thing, these pedestrian accidents. And what's the deal? Why do pedestrians get run over when they have the right-of-way and the sign says that they can walk? What's that about?
I think it boils down to carelessness. A lot of people are thinking about where they're going next, what they have to do. They got to pick up their kids, maybe had a hard day at work, and they're thinking about, what they do next in that type of situation. And people are just, especially in Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio, they're cities where there's not much pedestrian traffic, so you're not used to people walking on the street. And when, God forbid, that one person's trying to get to work, trying to make a living, trying to do the right thing, and they're in the crosswalk, and some person, because they have a lot in their mind, which isn't an excuse, they just hit them. That's something that we can help them out with, and I know you can help them out with. And so ultimately, if you've been involved in an accident where you're a pedestrian, you've sustained lifelong injuries, life-altering injuries, Jim and I can help you. We enjoy helping people out just like you and helping out their family members, because you mentioned this. If they can't work, and ultimately that's how they provide for their family, how do they ultimately do that? They come to us, and we can help them out, getting them the compensation they deserve. we can wrestle through the insurance process. We
Yeah.
can file the claims for them. We can ultimately make sure that
That's what we do.
absolutely, we do, and every day we do it, and we've been doing it. I know you've been doing it for over 40 years. Let me ask you a little bit about the accidents involving kids that you've seen and the horrible injuries. Where often do you see these types of accidents involving kids?
Well, what I see, which is terrible, is accidents in school zones where people are speeding through school zones. And as a matter of fact, there are special laws that apply to children. If you see children playing in a neighborhood, the law says you should slow down, whether it's a school zone or not, because these are what you call darting child cases. And children are out to have fun. And the next thing you know, they're chasing after a ball in the street, and you just feel horrible because you hurt some kid. So the law is designed to protect children, and they give children a lesser duty of care than adults. So if a child is hurt, we can help these children.
Right.
And that's an area that we can do. What else about kids comes to your mind?
Well, you mentioned school zones. You mentioned individuals as far as children getting injured in school zones. You know, certainly children are a lot of the time darting out in front of cars, but some of the time they're just walking to school with their friends, trying to get to school, trying to learn something, and they get hit by a vehicle that's not paying attention as far as their driver not paying attention.
Yeah.
It's just horrific, and we help the children out as far as making sure that the parents, when they lose time from work, we ultimately make sure that, you know, they're not only losing time from work and then having to worry about a kid and bills, but we can help them with the bills, and that's how we come in to help with the bills. Also, sometimes what you see is there's a driver who commits a hit and run. What I mean by a hit and run is someone hits you and then they just leave the scene like nothing happened.
Yeah, that's the worst.
You wouldn't believe how many times I've seen that, and a lot of the time we're able to catch the perpetrator, and the police work with us to try to help us get the insurance information, the driver's name, and then on occasion they do prosecute the individual who committed the hit and run. Sometimes what happens is you never catch the person who did the hit and run. You have to utilize your uninsured motorist carrier coverage. Uninsured motorist coverage is if, you know, someone doesn't have insurance and they may stop and just say, I don't have insurance, and the police come out, but also it can be available for you or your family members when an individual causes a hit and run and you can never find them.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a really important point that you and I always emphasize, that when people go buy an insurance policy, they shouldn't just buy a liability. Because if you buy a liability, you're protecting the other person that gets hit by you. But what if you get hit by someone that doesn't have insurance, or your child doesn't have insurance? Your uninsured motorist coverage can protect you as a pedestrian. And people try to go cheap on insurance. Never ever refuse to buy uninsured motorist coverage, because that's a way that you can protect yourself, your wife, your husband, your children, everybody in your household.
That's right. That's right.
I just don't understand why people don't buy uninsured motorist coverage. It's cheap.
Well, the reason people don't buy it is because a lot of the agents probably mention it just in passing, but they don't let you know how important it is. When in actuality, it's extremely important.
Why do they do that?
Well, they want, you know,
That's ridiculous.
You mentioned people wanting to buy cheap insurance, and it's cheaper if you just buy liability. Let's just be honest. You know, liability coverage is cheaper, but you don't want to cheapen out your own claim. So what I mean by that...
But does the agent even care?
Well, some agents care. Some agents are just interested in getting you to sign on the dotted line.
They just want a commission, right?
Yeah, they want a commission, but they should be doing the right thing. They should be doing the right thing, and some of them do the right thing. Some of them don't do the right thing. So with that said, you know, we want to talk about the importance of not only purchasing correct insurance, but also contacting an experienced attorney. An experienced attorney who does these type of cases, who's done thousands and thousands of these cases like Jim and I have. It's extremely important that you contact someone like Jim or me. So contact Jim Adler and Associates. The best number to call at is 800-567-7575. Tell them about how they can contact us on the web.
If you're a victim of a pedestrian knockdown case, please feel free to look us up on www.jimadler.com. We're all here to help. We're 300 strong. And all our lawyers and staff want to thank everybody for watching Hammer TV. And please, please leave us your comments, your questions, and tell us what legal topics you'd like us to discuss on the show. It's all free, and we'd really love it if you'd like to share this video with your friends and loved ones that might need some help. The call is free, and it would mean a lot to me and my son Bill, the Texas Hammers, if you called us. So we're signing off at Hammer TV for today. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, everybody.